You are not who you were yesterday, unless you choose to be. Every day, without realizing it, you carry the chains of your old self. Habits that no longer serve you, fears that should have died long ago, and failures you've already outgrown. Yet you drag them forward like ghosts tied to your soul. The Stoics believed that your past is not your prison. It's a map you have the power to burn. They taught that true self-renewal demands more than motivation. It demands a kind of internal warfare. To kill the weak version of yourself is not cruelty. It's an act of profound courage. It's choosing to bury the part of you that clings to comfort, excuses, and self-pity. In this video, you'll discover powerful Stoic strategies to dismantle the chains you no longer need. You'll learn how to master your inner dialogue, crush the toxic scripts playing in your mind, and rebuild your identity with deliberate action, discipline, and emotional resilience. You are not alone in this battle. Every strong man you admire has fought and continues to fight this same war inside. Strength isn't about never falling. It's about refusing to stay chained to who you were. Stay with me. What you'll hear today could redraw the map of your life. Like the Stoics, you'll learn not to fear the fire, but to use it. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone ready to rise. 1. Self-renewal begins with letting go of who you were. You cannot build a new life while dragging the corpse of your old self behind you. Yet this is what most men unknowingly do. Every day, they rise carrying habits that have already failed them, fears that have no place in their future, and doubts sharpened by a lifetime of repetition. They do it because the human mind clings to the familiar, even when that familiarity poisons them. It whispers that safety lies in what is known, even if what is known is mediocrity, stagnation, and regret. Stoicism tears this illusion apart with brutal clarity. Your old self is not your home. It is your cage. Identity, according to the Stoics, is not set in stone. It is clay, wet and malleable, shaped by the blows of discipline, molded by the heat of deliberate action. To change, you do not need more time. You do not need another perfect plan. You need to kill the part of yourself that insists on dragging yesterday into today. That death must be voluntary. It is not enough to drift and hope change happens. You must choose to bury the weak version of yourself, the one addicted to excuses, comfort, resentment, and fear. Many men make the mistake of thinking self-renewal means layering new habits on top of old rot, painting over decay with fresh colors. They try to improve themselves without ever confronting the reality that what must happen first is destruction. You do not renovate a house infested with termites. You tear it down to the foundation and rebuild. The same is true with the man you are trying to become. Your weak self cannot be polished. It must be burned. The weak self will plead with you. It will offer endless negotiations. It will tell you that your old habits are not so bad, that your fears are reasonable, that a little compromise is wise. It lies. It has always lied. Every day you allow it to whisper in your ear is a day you sacrifice potential for the fleeting comfort of what you already know. And one day, if you do not act, you will wake up to realize that comfort has turned into chains, heavy, rusted, unbreakable. The Stoics understood that self-renewal was not a gentle rebirth. It was a war against the familiar parts of yourself that begged for survival. It required what they called voluntary death, a conscious molting, a decision to rip away the skin you had outgrown, even when every fiber of your being wanted to stay where it was warm, predictable, and safe. Because safety is an illusion. Safety, if it means staying small, is the slowest form of death. Where modern culture tells you to love yourself by accepting every weakness, the Stoics demand something far harder and far more freeing. They demand that you love your future self enough to slaughter the current version standing in the way. True self-respect, true masculine strength, true Stoic masculinity comes not from clinging to who you were, but from ruthlessly clearing the path for who you could become. Today, the mistake most men make is confusing who they have been with who they are destined to be. They say, "I've always been this way," as if that is an argument to stop trying. But the Stoic man says, "I was that way until I chose otherwise." That is the pivot. That is the fire. And that is where the journey begins. The battlefield is your daily life. The enemy is not the world outside. It is not your boss, your past, your failures, or your circumstances. The enemy is the old version of yourself that you refuse to bury. And every moment you delay its funeral, you surrender the new life you claim to want. So, how do you begin? You begin by declaring war. You choose one habit, one old belief, one destructive reflex that no longer belongs in the man you are becoming. You do not make excuses for it. You do not delay its execution. You name it, you drag it into the light, and you kill it. Maybe it's your addiction to comfort, your craving for validation, your tendency to procrastinate, your habit of drowning your ambition in distractions. Whatever it is, you must look it in the eye without flinching. You must say, you die today. And then, through deliberate action, not through thinking, not through wishing, you must drive the first nail into its coffin. A simple but brutal practice. Tonight, write down the one behavior that holds you back the most. One sentence. Sharp. Brutal. No sugarcoating. Tomorrow, for one full day, live as if that behavior no longer exists. Act as if you are already free. When the temptation rises to fall back into it, feel the fire inside you, the same fire the Stoics carried, and say, that man is dead. I walk forward without him. This is the beginning of real transformation. Not talk, not intentional. Action. Relentless, conscious, bloody action. The kind that shatters the chains of old identity and forges a new one in their place. You must understand, your past is soil, not prison. And what grows from it, rot or rebirth, is up to you. Burn the old map, forge the new path, kill the weak version of yourself, or prepare to be buried alongside him. 2. Inner dialogue is a battlefield. The greatest battles are not fought under the open sky. They are fought in the silence of your mind. Every man carries a private war inside his skull, where thoughts, fears, and falsehoods clash day after day. This battlefield is where your old self survives. Not because it is strong, but because it controls the narrative. It speaks through the quiet voice in your head that says, you can't change. You've always been this way. It sounds like you, but it is not you. It is the dying breath of a version of yourself you should have buried long ago. Inner dialogue is not neutral. It is not harmless. It is a weapon, either forged to liberate you or sharpened to enslave you. If you leave it unguarded, your mind becomes a prison where your ambitions rot and your strength withers. The Stoics knew this truth with unflinching clarity. They understood that the stories you tell yourself determine whether you live like a free man or die chained to who you used to be. Many men make the fatal mistake of believing that their inner voice reflects reality. They hear it whisper doubts and assume it must be true. They hear it predicts failure and surrender before even trying. They confuse repetition with truth. But repetition is not truth. It is simply the hammering of old fears, reforged into scripts by years of unchecked weakness. Every time you think, I'm not strong enough, I'm too late to change, this is just who I am, you are not speaking a fact. You are reciting a lie written by a version of yourself too afraid to reach for more. The modern world tells you to listen to your inner voice, but Stoicism says something harsher and far more powerful. Audit it. Attack it. Break it apart. Challenge every word until only what is real remains. Because the mind is not a sanctuary. It is a battlefield. And if you do not fight for control of your thoughts, the decaying version of you will win by default. Rebuilding your identity, mastering your emotions, reclaiming your mental resilience, it all starts with recognizing that most of what you think is simply noise. It is not prophecy. It is not destiny. It is old programming, outdated scripts written by fear and failure, running on autopilot because you have allowed it for too long. The weak self thrives on these automatic narratives because they justify inaction, comfort, and emotional fragility. The mistake most men make is passivity. They let these scripts run unchecked. They accept every thought as a verdict. They treat every mental whisper as gospel. But a Stoic man treats thoughts like enemies until proven allies. He cross-examines every limiting belief. He does not sit quietly in the courtroom of his own mind while the old self prosecutes him with lies. The truth is brutal but liberating. You are the author of your inner dialogue, whether you acknowledge it or not. And every day you allow negative scripts to echo without challenge. You choose to reinforce the bars of your own prison. You breathe life into the chains you claim to hate. You remain the warden of your own mental captivity. The solution is not hollow positivity. It is not blind affirmations. Stoicism does not tell you to lie to yourself about how wonderful you are. It demands ruthless honesty. It demands that when you hear the voice say, "I can't," you reply, "I haven't yet, but I will." When you hear, "I've always been this way," you answer, "That was the old me." The new me writes his own script. Every automatic thought must be caught, interrogated, and if necessary, destroyed. Every self-defeating belief must be dragged into the light and burned. When your mind tells you you're trapped, ask yourself, who built these walls? Who handed me these chains? The answer will always be the same. And so will the responsibility to tear them down. A simple practice to sharpen your battle readiness. For the next 3 days, carry a small notebook or open a note on your phone. Every time you catch a self-limiting thought, any whisper of doubt, fear, hesitation, write it down without judgment. Then, immediately challenge it. Reframe it. If you think, "I can't handle this," write, "I can handle more than I believe." If you think, "I'm not the kind of man who does hard things," write, "I am exactly the kind of man who grows by doing hard things." This is not about pretending to be fearless. It is about refusing to bow to fear without a fight. It is about forging a stoic mindset under fire, hammering resilience where there was once surrender. It is about mastering emotional control, not by suppressing your struggles, but by confronting them head-on and rewriting the terms of engagement. The old self wants you to be passive. It wants you to be meek. It wants you to be obedient to the old scripts that keep you small. The new self demands vigilance. It demands you become a warrior in your own mind, slaying lies with the sword of truth, replacing weakness with strength, one thought at a time. You must decide. Right now, will you let the decayed voices of your past continue to dictate the terms of your future, or will you seize the pen and rewrite the battle script? There is no neutral ground. There never was. Win your mind or lose your life. 3. Burn the comfort zone. Comfort is a coffin disguised as a gift. It feels warm. It feels safe. It feels earned after years of struggle. But in truth, it is a slow burial. The man who stays in his comfort zone is not living. He is preparing to die, long before his heart stops beating. Every soft choice, every avoided challenge, every excuse made in the name of taking it easy lays another brick around him. Brick by brick, he builds the fortress of his own weakness. And when he realizes it, the walls are already too high to climb without a war. He no longer has the stomach to fight. The comfort zone is not a reward. It is the last trap the old self sets for you. It whispers that you've done enough, that you can coast, that the next step, the hard step, can wait. But what the comfort zone never tells you is that time will not wait, that opportunity does not linger forever. That discipline decays faster than you think when you choose the soft path. The comfort you think protects you is actually sharpening the knife that will gut your potential. The Stoics knew that comfort is a mirage. They lived not to chase ease, but to embrace hardship. Marcus Aurelius wrote that obstacles are not hindrances, they are the path itself. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. It is not in the avoidance of difficulty that you find freedom. It is through difficulty. It is by forging your character against the grindstone of challenge that you become the man you were meant to be. Modern culture feeds you the opposite. It preaches safety. It glorifies convenience. It seduces you with endless entertainment, instant gratification, and hollow affirmations that say you are enough even as you rot inside. It tells you that discomfort is to be avoided, that struggle is unnatural, that life should be easy if you are doing it right. But Stoicism rips the veil away and shows you the battlefield you have refused to see. Life is not a lounge, it is a forge. And every moment you hide in comfort, you are allowing the old self to hammer your spirit into submission. You must choose to burn the comfort zone to the ground. You must step into the fire willingly. You must understand that your comfort zone is not a sanctuary. It is a slow death in disguise. The walls you think protect you are actually closing in. Every time you say no to a challenge, every time you retreat into what feels safe, you are surrendering a piece of your strength. So how do you dismantle the fortress? You attack it daily. You seek discomfort on purpose. You hunt like a warrior starved for battle. You wake up and you do something hard before your mind has a chance to bargain. You choose the cold shower instead of the warm one. You lift the heavy weight instead of quitting when it burns. You have the difficult conversation instead of swallowing resentment. You train yourself, moment by moment, to stop choosing ease over excellence. The weak self shrinks at discomfort. It recoils from anything that threatens to stretch its limits. It whispers that you can skip the workout, delay the project, avoid the confrontation, and rest one more day. And every time you listen, you make the old self stronger. You feed it, you shelter it, you guarantee that it will outlive you. The Stoic way demands the opposite. It demands that you meet hardship like an old friend. It demands that you see obstacles not as punishment but as training. Every moment of pain, every moment of uncertainty, every tremor of fear is another swing of the hammer reshaping the man you are becoming. If you wait until you feel ready, you will never act. If you wait until you are confident, you will never grow. If you wait until the fear vanishes, you will never move. Action kills fear. Discipline kills hesitation. But only if you step forward before you feel prepared. A simple practice to set the fire. Today, do one thing that makes you uncomfortable. It does not have to be heroic, but it must be deliberate. It must stretch you. Pick the hard conversation you have avoided. Push yourself one step further in training. Refuse the easy path you would normally slip into. When the resistance rises, and it will, smile. Know that you are swinging the axe against the gates of the old self. And tomorrow, do it again. Comfort is the drug that sedates the man you could have been. Discomfort is the forge where the man you must become is made. Burn the comfort zone, stand in the ashes, and walk forward, unchained. 4. Detach from the past. The past is not real. That may sound like denial, but it's the most liberating truth you'll ever hear. The past is not a place you can touch. It's not a prison made of stone and steel. It's a film reel, projected over and over by your mind, distorted by emotion, colored by regret, rewound by fear. The man you used to be, he doesn't exist anymore. The only reason he's still breathing is because you keep giving him oxygen through memory. You keep carrying his mistakes like sacred wounds, protecting them, justifying them, identifying with them. But understand this, the past is dead, and if you don't bury it, it will bury you. Detachment is not forgetfulness. It is not apathy. Detachment is clarity. It is choosing to stop building your future on the broken bricks of your former failures. It's recognizing that dragging old pain into the present is not strength. It is self-sabotage disguised as reflection. So many men stay stuck, not because they're broken, but because they believe they are the break. They confuse the wound with their identity. They build their masculinity on scars as if being hurt is who they are, not something they once endured. The modern world tells you to heal, but what it often means is hold on more gently. Keep your trauma close. Make space for it. Build your personality around it. Let it define your relationships, your limits, and your purpose. That narrative is poison. Stoicism teaches something brutal but freeing. The pain you've been through is not who you are. It is a training ground, a fire, a test. You are not meant to wear it like armor, but to burn it for fuel. You are meant to extract wisdom from it and leave the ashes behind. When Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events," realize this and you will find strength. He wasn't offering comfort. He was offering a challenge. He was daring you to stop using what happened as an excuse to stay small. He was calling you out of the mausoleum of your memories to step forward into the present. The only battlefield where change is still possible. Here is the brutal truth most refuse to face. It's easier to stay wounded than to heal. It's easier to replay the story of betrayal than to write a new story where you are no longer the victim. It's easier to blame your father, your past failures, your upbringing, your regrets, than to bury them with finality and rise. But easy is where the old self hides. Easy is its last defense, and detachment is the sledgehammer that breaks through it. So how do you start? First, you must stop rehearsing. Every time you speak the same regret out loud, every time you relive that mistake in your mind, every time you let guilt walk freely through your thoughts, you're staging a performance for an audience that's already left. You're giving the past a voice in a present it has no right to speak into. Silence it. Replace it. When the old memory knocks, meet it not with shame or nostalgia, but with detachment. That version of me is gone. He served his purpose. He is no longer welcome here. You must also stop using the past as an identity. Being the guy who always screws up, the one who never finishes, the one who got betrayed, that story is not written in ink. It is written in smoke. Let the wind take it. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to do with what happened. The Stoics saw this not as a motivational quote, but as an unbreakable law of freedom. A simple yet powerful practice. Tonight, write down the version of yourself you are most tired of being. Write him a letter. Be specific. Be ruthless. Tell him what he did. Tell him why he no longer belongs. And then burn it. Not as a symbolic ritual, as a decision. A burial. The fire isn't for show, it's for severance. Tomorrow when your mind tries to resurrect that man, remind yourself out loud, he died last night. I walk without him now. When guilt returns, when self-doubt whispers, when regret tries to wrap itself around your spine like a chain, repeat, that was his burden, not mine. This is not emotional denial. It is an emotional command. It is reclaiming your mind as sacred ground where only your future self is allowed to speak. The old self the bitter one, the scared one, the one who replayed every failure as prophecy, he's had enough airtime. Now he gets silence. Detach from the past like it's the weight it has always been. Drop it like armor after the war is done. And walk forward, unburdened, eyes up, hands free, ready to build what the old self was never strong enough to touch. 5. Take ruthless responsibility. Blame is a warm blanket for weak men. It wraps around you, shields you from the sting of ownership, and gives you someone else to point at when your life starts crumbling under your feet. It feels good. It feels justified. But every time you reach for it, you trade power for pity, freedom for excuses. You turn your potential into ashes and your ambition into chains. Blame is the currency of the old self, and if you keep spending it, you will die in debt to your own wasted years. Responsibility, in the Stoic sense, is not about guilt. It's about power. It's about reclaiming the steering wheel of your own life, even when the road is broken, even when the storm is raging, even when others have sabotaged your path. You do not control the world. You do not control fate. But you control your mind, your choices, and your response. And that is where real, brutal freedom begins. Most men are trapped not by the injustice of life, but by their refusal to own their reaction to it. They fall into the oldest trap. They think acknowledging responsibility for their misery is admitting fault. It is not. It is claiming the right to change. The man who waits for others to fix his life, to apologize, to make things fair, is a slave dressed in civilian clothes. He carries his chains inside his chest. Modern culture whispers in your ear, it's not your fault. Life is unfair. Systems are rigged. People are cruel. And yes, sometimes they are. Stoicism doesn't deny that, but Stoicism screams something harsher and more empowering. So what? What will you do now? Will you kneel and wail at the injustice of the world, or will you rise in spite of it, because of it, with the scars of the battle etched into your strength? The weak self loves to find villains. It loves to replay the betrayal, the rejection, the injustice like an old song. It loves to hand out blame like candy, because blame is easy. Blame means you don't have to change. Blame means you can stay the same and still feel righteous. But righteousness without action is rot. It is the slow suicide of men who spend their lives pointing fingers instead of building their future. The Stoic knows that every time you blame, you surrender. Every time you say, I can't because of him, or I failed because of them, you hand the keys of your life to someone else. You crawl into the prison and lock the door from the inside. No man can call himself free while he needs someone else's permission to succeed, to heal, to move forward. Taking ruthless responsibility means dragging every part of your life into the light and owning it without apology. It means looking at your health, your finances, your relationships, your habits, and saying, this is mine. No more blaming your parents. No more blaming your boss. No more blaming bad luck, bad timing, or bad genetics. These things may have wounded you, but they do not get to own you unless you hand them the deed. This is not self-hatred. This is self-liberation. It is the refusal to be a passive character in your own story. It is the decision to become the architect, the sculptor, the author, even if you have to carve a masterpiece from the wreckage someone else left behind. A simple practice. Tonight, write down 3 things in your life you are dissatisfied with. Not with self-pity, not with rage, with cold, surgical honesty. Then, next to each, write one way you allowed it to persist. Not how others contributed, how you allowed it. How do you tolerate it? How you fed it with inaction, with silence, with fear. This is the battlefield. This is where the old self clings to life. This is where you cut him down. Tomorrow, choose one of those areas and act differently, not perfectly, differently. Call the meeting, start the workout, set the boundary. Refuse the old reflex that says, it's not my fault. Make one move that screams, it's my responsibility and I'm taking it back. Responsibility is not a burden. It is a sword, and only the man who carries it can cut through the chains that bind him to his past. Only the man who carries it can kill the weak version of himself and forge a new self, stronger, freer, forged not in blame but in blood and will. You have a choice. Right now, you can either tighten the chains of your excuses or you can sharpen the blade of your responsibility. One path leads to quiet decay, the other to battle and rebirth. Choose. 6. Choose discipline over emotion. The weak version of you wants to wait. It tells you to rest a little longer, to act when it feels right, to move only when the fire of motivation returns. That voice is not your friend. It's a saboteur, hiding in comfort, armed with soft excuses and emotional sedatives. It convinces you that feelings must come first, that your mood must align before you move. But movement doesn't come from feeling. It comes from the command. It comes from choice. It comes from war. Discipline is not glamorous. It doesn't sparkle. It doesn't get applause. But it is the foundation under every powerful life. Discipline is the steel frame of real freedom. Because the man ruled by emotion is not free. He is a prisoner of impulse, a puppet yanked by mood swings and mental weather. He works when he feels like it. He shows up when the world is kind. He speaks the truth only when it's safe. That man does not lead. He reacts. He does not shape life. He waits to be shaped by it. Stoicism draws a hard line between feeling and doing. The Stoics didn't reject emotion. They mastered it. They knew emotion is not the enemy, but the test. When your emotions rise, when fatigue sets in, when the mind wants to quit, that is where the real training begins. Epictetus wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That includes how you react to your own resistance. How you respond to the storm inside your chest. Do you bow to it, or do you rise through it? The lie modern men are sold is that motivation comes first. You should wait until you're inspired, that you need to feel ready, feel confident, feel passionate. But passion is the reward, not the prerequisite. Discipline is what gets you to the gate. Motivation is what shows up late to the party after the hard work is done. And if you build your life on waiting for good feelings to carry you, you will die with a life half built. The Stoic path is brutal in its clarity. It says, act now, regardless of mood. Move when you're tired, speak when you're afraid. Do what must be done even when your body begs for comfort and your mind pleads for permission to rest. Because every time you act without waiting to feel like it, you chip away at the chains of the old self, the emotional slave who only moved when the wind blew just right. So what does this look like in the real world? It means waking up and going to war with your own weakness before the world even begins to ask anything from you. It means putting your feet on the floor even when the bed feels warm and the sky outside is gray. It means writing the page, lifting the weight, making the call, showing up. Not because you're on fire inside, but because you're done being ruled by how you feel. The battlefield of modern man is paved in invisible moments, the tiny acts of daily war where the only opponent is your own softness. This does not mean ignoring your emotions. It means dethroning them. It means you give them a voice, not a vote. You listen, but you do not obey. The Stoic man uses his feelings as fuel, not as brakes. When he's angry, he sharpens his words instead of shouting them. When he's tired, he uses the fatigue to train resilience. When he's afraid, he moves with the fear, not away from it. If your life is controlled by emotion, it will always be inconsistent. But discipline is stable ground. It's the anchor you drive into the earth when the waves of doubt and distraction crash against your will. It doesn't matter if you feel like it. It matters that you said you would. The Stoic doesn't care how hard the path is today. He cares only that he stays on it. To train this muscle, start small, but start daily. Set a non-negotiable act for your mornings. something your old self would avoid. Maybe it's getting out of bed without the snooze. Maybe it's writing 100 words. Maybe it's a 20-minute walk. Whatever it is, it must be hard enough to make the weak self protest. That's how you know it's working. Every day, you complete that act, not because you felt like it, but because you chose it. You break the emotional leash. You rise above the storm inside. The man you were waiting for, the man you're becoming, commands. He does not ask for the mood to align. He does not pause for the perfect moment. He acts. Not because it's easy, not because it's natural, but because he has chosen to lead himself. Discipline is your blade. Sharpen it with every act of defiance against delay. Cut through the fog of indecision. Act when you don't feel like it, and watch the old self crumble in your dust. 7. Train through voluntary hardship. Hardship is not your enemy. It is the fire that burns away the lie of who you think you are. Every man says he wants strength until he is asked to suffer for it. He wants discipline until it demands his comfort. He wants transformation until he sees that the path is paved with deliberate pain. That's where the weak self shows its true colors, in its hunger for results without resistance, rewards without cost. But nothing worth having is built in comfort. Nothing lasting is forged in ease. If you want to kill the fragile version of yourself, you have to bleed on purpose. You have to suffer by choice. Voluntary hardship is the Stoic's crucible. It is the battlefield where weakness dies and quiet strength is born. It is not chaos, not trauma, not crisis. It is training. Deliberate, intentional, controlled fire, not wildfire. It is walking into discomfort with your eyes open, not because you love pain, but because you know what comfort has done to you. It has softened your edges, it has dulled your ambition, it has fed your cravings and silenced your clarity, and now it must be burned. Modern life preaches convenience as a virtue. If it's hard, avoid it. If it's uncomfortable, numb it. If it takes effort, automate it. You are told that a good life is a life of ease. But ease is the slow erosion of power. It's not just physical, it's mental, emotional, and spiritual. And that erosion is subtle. You don't feel it until one day you're standing in front of a challenge and you break. Not because you're weak, but because you never practiced being strong. You avoided the gym when you were tired. You avoided the confrontation when it was awkward. You avoided the mirror when it reflected the truth you didn't want to see. The Stoics rejected this life of avoidance. They trained like warriors, not with swords, but with restraint. Seneca slept on the floor. Epictetus practiced going without. Marcus Aurelius wrote in the early hours while the rest of Rome slept. They understood that comfort is an illusion, and discipline is a decision. Every act of self-denial sharpened their minds. Every embrace of discomfort toughened their spirit. They knew the greatest battle is not won by those who wait for adversity, but by those who seek it out and train in advance. Voluntary hardship is the opposite of self-punishment. It is not masochism. It is mastery. It is proof that you are no longer ruled by your cravings or dictated by convenience. When you train hard, you're not just building muscle, you're building proof. You are showing yourself that you can suffer and still choose your values, that you can hurt and still move forward, that you can want to quit and still continue. Each time you do, the weak self loses ground. It doesn't vanish in one battle, but piece by piece, you strip away its voice until one day it has no power left. You cannot think your way into strength. You act your way there. You must put your body, your emotions, your impulses through fire. Not once, but again and again until pain becomes a signal, not a stop sign. Discomfort becomes fuel. Resistance becomes direction. Every cold shower, every early morning, every rep past failure, every awkward conversation, every day, you show up when your mind says don't. These are your rituals of rebirth. You are not suffering for nothing. You are building someone who can handle everything. Start small, but make it hurt. Set a rule for yourself. Each day, do one thing that makes your body protest and your mind recoil. It could be training harder than yesterday, speaking the truth you've buried, saying no to the comfort food you reach for when you're stressed. The point is not the task. The point is the process. You're carving a new identity out of your old instinct. You're telling the soft self, I no longer serve you. You will be tempted to stop. The old voice will return. It will say, this is too much. It will say, you've earned a break. That voice is the ghost of the man you're killing. Let him scream, let him beg, but don't let him command. Every time you ignore him, you reclaim your throne. You will not rise by waiting for life to make you strong. You will rise by making yourself unbreakable, one chosen hardship at a time. You do not need ease. You do not need motivation. You need fire. The kind you walk into with your chest out, your eyes steady, your will unshaken. Hardship is not punishment, it is preparation. Step into it, train in it, own it. That is how you kill the old self. That is how you become untouchable. 8. Live with memento mori. You are dying, not someday, not in the distant future. Right now, with every breath you take, with every hour you waste, with every excuse you whisper to yourself, you move closer to the grave. That's not morbid. That's clarity. That's memento mori, the Stoic practice of remembering death, not to tremble before it, but to sharpen your life into something worthy of being lived. Most men live as if they have time, as if they're owed decades, as if tomorrow is promised. But time doesn't negotiate. It doesn't ask how ready you are. It doesn't care about your plans. It doesn't wait for your healing, your motivation, or your courage to arrive. Time moves, silently, brutally, and one day it will stop, and you won't get to bargain for more. The tragedy isn't death. The tragedy is the life you never claimed while you still had the chance. The weak self is an expert at delay. It will tell you that there's time. That's fine. That you'll start when you feel better, when things settle down, when everything aligns. It plays this game for years, until you blink and decades are gone. The man who waits to live dies while waiting. The Stoic understood that every delay is not neutral. Every moment spent in hesitation is a silent betrayal of the man you are meant to become. Memento mori is not about fear. It's about focus. It's the death of distraction, the death of emotional numbness. It's a violent rejection of wasted breath. It doesn't invite you to dread your final day. It dares you to stop living like it'll never come. Because when you truly grasp how fragile you are, how little time you have, every choice becomes sacred. Every word, every action, every morning you wake up becomes a battlefield where you either rise with purpose or fall back into the decay of routine. Most men avoid this truth because it's uncomfortable. They don't want to think about the funeral coming for them. But avoidance doesn't grant peace. It guarantees regret. Men who avoid death don't live longer. They just live more dull. They live smaller. They let life pass in the name of comfort and wonder where it went when the clock runs out. The Stoic didn't avoid the truth. He stared it down. He befriended it. He invited it to walk beside him, not to haunt him, but to keep him awake. That's the key. Memento mori is a wake-up call. It's a blade pressed to your throat that says, what will you do with the time you still have? It exposes the lie that you can afford to wait to forgive, to build, to change, to become. Waiting is the oldest poison the weak self uses to keep you tame. Stoicism slices through that lie with a single question. What if today is your last full day alive and you're wasting it scrolling, avoiding, complaining? When you live with death in mind, you stop needing everything to be perfect. You stop needing the mood to be right. You stop tolerating drama, fake ambition, shallow relationships, and emotional indulgence. You start showing up. You start speaking the truth. You start treating people with presence. You start treating your life like something worth dying for, because one day, it will be over. To apply this, don't just reflect, act. Write this at the top of your journal every morning. If today is my last day alive, what kind of man will I be? Don't make it poetic. Make it practical. Will you speak up or stay silent? Will you move your body or sit in decay? Will you reach out to someone who matters or pretend there's still time tomorrow? One small action, done with death in mind, will be more alive than 1,000 empty intentions lived in denial. Let that thought press into you. You are not promised one more sunrise. And that's not a curse. That's the most powerful tool you have. It frees you. It burns the illusion that you can afford to waste time. It leaves you naked in front of the truth that now is all you've ever had. That the weak self you're trying to destroy survives off one thing, your belief in later. There is no later, only now. Only what you do with the breath in your lungs today. The Stoics didn't fear death. They feared not living. So must you. Bury the lie that you have time. Kill the man who keeps putting life off, and walk as if every step is the last. because one day it will be. You are not here to stay the same. You are here to evolve, to confront every weakness, every excuse, every shadow of the man you used to be, and burn it down with quiet, relentless discipline. Each part of this journey, detaching from your past, mastering your emotions, building inner resilience, and facing discomfort head-on, is not just philosophy, it is a blueprint for self-reinvention. The Stoics never promised ease. What they offered was power. Not the loud kind that demands attention, but the kind forged in silence, in the early hours, in the unseen effort, in the choice to rise even when no one is watching. That kind of strength is earned, not claimed. And it begins the moment you stop waiting for life to hand you clarity and start becoming the man who creates it from within. If there is one truth you carry forward from this, let it be this: your transformation is your responsibility, not tomorrow, not when it feels right, but now, in this breath, in this moment. Your daily actions are either strengthening the new self or feeding the old. Choose deliberately. Begin with one habit, one thought pattern, one small act of courage. Practice discipline over emotion. Choose action over comfort. And live with the awareness that time is not endless. Let that sharpen your focus. Let that purify your priorities. And when you feel resistance, remember, it is the sound of your old self dying. Share your own journey in the comments below. What part of you are you ready to bury? What daily battle are you fighting? Let this be more than a video. Let it be the start of a new standard for how you live.